A Philosophy Journal entry, number 39, Individualism and Collectivism. A criterion for individualism and collectivism for purposes of comparison ought to be cognizant that the natural demographic facts are implicit variables against which criticism or constructions of either might be made. Some geographical environments are naturally better suited for individualism, and the concept of collectivism would be naturally alien. In other, perhaps more populous geographic regions, collectivism may be a natural fact of life, although how it is structured may vary quite markedly. In the history of the West, of Europe, and of the United States, individualism would mean different things in different historical eras. If we define collectivism by simply examining the instant contents of mind of individuals as sharing information and acting upon it consistently as members of a social set, then collectives might be found in ESPN's The Herd of radio listeners, in the St. Petersburg Soviet of 1905, and in the members of the New York Stock Exchange equally well. Collectives would be considered as exclusive social organizations that reinforce the interests of members or that program members toward effective social support of particular phenomena, such as the sports entertainment business and the organization of much of American youth activity toward developing the best talent for the sport entertainment business instead of for individual or collective creative and productive activities. Individualism within the paradigm of populous nations requires a necessary degree of coordination within several socially collective organizations simultaneously, from that of responsible citizen supporter of laws to licensed automobile driver, participant in elected politics, or union members, and so forth. Without a vast number of collective organizations, with the goal of advancing the collective interests and values of members, even when not directly for material compensation, the progress of most advanced societies would deteriorate sharply. Yet, as in many things, moderation and intelligence largely determine how much and in what form collective organizational efforts are effective. Collective actions may preclude individual activities, and in some cases that may be harmful to the society generally. A society can only be as happy as the individuals of which it is comprised, or so individual pursuit of happiness and properties of rights generally are preeminent over those collective concerns, except in times of war or when prescribed activities for any individual have placed boundaries on individual freedom to own, for instance, nuclear artillery shells and launching platforms for hunting missions. What about Africa, with a population of 1 billion and about half of the continent largely desertified? How can individualism, supported by foreign anti-disease pharmaceuticals and better farming technology, be allowed to just double the population to 2 billion without creating various conflicts and overuse of resources? In that criterion, we find that individualism naturally merges into collective action upon environmental resources, and requires collectivism of a preemptory and governing kind to control the negative, disorganized, de facto collective action. Africa today is challenged by the iron law of wages phenomena of Ricardo to curtail its population increase that would have boundary margins of famine, war, and government terrorism besides disease. Because education for individuals requires a good early start and a generation to accomplish, and since that is quite expensive, it will be difficult for poor African nations to accomplish education enough and a high enough standard of living within a generation or two, maybe 30 years, to provide the criteria where women naturally reduce childbirth rates, as has been researched since Second World transitions into a prosperous society. African society, if it is to eliminate much of the kind of pervasive social horrors that probably lay ahead, will need to transition into a high-tech ecologically economic foundation such that an increased quality of life for individuals collectively does not tax the environment at a proportionate increased rate. I would recommend Daly and Farley's Ecological Economics introductory textbook for those unaware of the discipline. Individualism in the modern world of more than nearly 7 billion souls does have a collective effect on the global environment, obviously, at the national level. Today, 4 of the remaining 8 white rhinos were released into the wild of Africa with the hope that they will reproduce after not reproducing in 20 years of captivity. Probably they will end up as bushmeat in a stew pot. Humanity is degrading the environment and biodiversity in a plethora of purposefully wasteful business and social economic actions. Individuals can make the difference with their freedom. Collective government puppets in Washington, D.C., Alaska, and elsewhere may discourage ecological economic accountability and investment in perpetuation of fossil fuel economics and exclusivity of those that haven't sold their souls to the devil of corporatism and fossil fuel economics. Global warming is to be considered an opportunity for profit by those within a corrupted for all of capitalism that regards scarcity as a beneficial opportunity for a controlling product supplier's profit potential. They have made a harlot of Adam Smith's version of capitalism from the Wealth of Nations and transformed her into a tool for collectivism. Individual, corporate, or collective organizations pursuing their own self-interest to the detriment of disorganized individuals are the fact of corporate repression of national interest to benefit individuals as members of the class of basic citizenship. If individualism is the number of dimensions of freedom individuals have to run their own lives, free of collective actions and effects, that freedom is reduced by the rise of dominating corporations of global stature that interfere in a variety of ways, networking financially, and with government lackeys to affect individuals adversely and limit their economic potential as the environment is totalized and predetermined by ossifications of corporate economic infrastructure.